Hello and welcome. It's Howard, and today I'm here with Chris. Chris is
Hello.
an expat living in Bali, living quite locally, moved from the UK, runs a recruitment business, and there's a good point why we're going to discuss the recruitment business first, so stick with it because it all makes sense. So tell us a little bit about your recruitment business quickly.
Well, I run a UK-based recruitment business that just specialises in legal recruitment. But what we're looking to do is expand into Australia. So the project at the moment is we're sort of going through quite a lot, very detailed path to map out the market of where all the law firms are, who are the decision makers. And it's a massive task. I hadn't quite realised how big it was. So we're sort of deep in that at the moment. But in the UK, all we do is specialise in legal recruitment. So, and it's mainly headhunting, and our firms, we're ranked actually the most highly ranked what's the executive search firm in the UK. And then, out of all recruitment agencies, that could do like engineering or offshore or anything, we're ranked the third most highly
You're
rated.
ranked third by other people.
Yeah,
Other people
it's
have
by
voted you
satisfaction.
third, and is that on Trustpilot?
Yeah,
You
on
said
the
so.
Trustpilot.
Trustpilot, for those who don't know, is an independent review service that people post reviews themselves on. So third in your industry, rated by customers, is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, within the legal sector, we're the first, we're the most highly rated, but compared to all recruitment businesses, I think it's even, businesses that are like, websites where people would go to put their CVs, actual recruitment agencies, out of all of those, with a third,
Blimey.
covering every sector.
And so there's a good reason why we've gone through that. So stick with us. And I'll touch a bit more on some of your future successes and ambition, because there's a dark side to being so successful, as I think the world's starting to wake up and notice some of the most successful, most driven, most creative, your Amy Winehouse's, Jimi Hendrix's, both died at 27, struggle. I imagine everyone in that industry, CEO, CFO, whatever, struggles with something. Arguably workaholism, and so you had some of your own struggles as well.
Yeah. Now, I mean, personally, I think since I was early on in my career, I was very much work hard, play hard. It was there was a big culture as well in the recruitment industry when I first started. And I wasn't a part of that because I didn't work in a big city, but you'd hear about some of the bigger agencies in Manchester. They had very difficult targets. It was very sales orientated, and we would hear that some of these companies, people would be frowned on if they were to start leaving at 8, 9 o'clock at night. Even they were working all the hours God sends, and with the pressure, I think some of the the individuals, certainly the bigger hitters, were earning a lot of money. And then obviously drugs, alcohol, the sort of social aspects, takes over as well. So although where I worked was not in the city, I was already aware that was the case. But even with myself, I started to get affected by, it was such kind of high pressure. And the more you got good at doing the job yourself, it was the battle to stay at that level, because in recruitment, every single month they kind of wipe the board clean, and you start afresh. So the pressure never yields. And then I went from doing the actual job for quite some time to then owning my own business, but still doing the job, but then having the stresses of managing people.
Double bubble.
Yeah, you start to realise how particular I was as well, and anal about detail and things being done correctly, because I kind of quite early on understood that when you start cutting corners, before you know it, the whole thing just starts to be a complete mess. And and everything really with recruitment comes down to, you could have the best database sort of structure out there, and we use as a company one of the the world's leading ones, but if you don't put good information into it, if you're sloppy, if you just
Crap in,
miss
crap
fields,
out.
and you just end up. And I in recruitment as well, we do legal recruitment at the moment, but years ago, just because I like cars, we got into automotive recruitment, and we became one of the biggest, automotive recruiters for quite some time. And and then what happened was the recession hit, and that absolutely,
Oh, goodness.
yeah,
I remember buying vans then.
yeah. Well, there's this
It's an expensive
statistic.
hobby.
Oh yeah, there's this statistic that in September 2008, because we were involved as well in kind of commercial vehicles, so the truck companies and all the rest of it. And I think was it Scania, one of the really big makes of commercial trucks. They only registered 2 new trucks in September. So you imagine they would normally sell probably thousands, at least hundreds of brand new trucks.
Wow.
So all of the hauliers, everything, we just thought, no, we'll keep them a little bit longer. And it was like someone switched the lights off for us. So from that experience, I decided we need to have or try and find a business model which isn't so sensitive to recessions.
Okay, clever.
And this is the good thing about legal is when it goes bad, they
People
still
always need legal.
Yeah, and nobody thinks, God, I've had a good time at work. It's gone really well. I think I'll go down and see the solicitor for a chat and spend a few hundred. It's a necessary evil. And when the market gets bad, conveyancing and areas like that go quiet. But then sort of insolvency work in corporate.
So one drops down, another rises up.
I mean, even in COVID, for example, family law went mega because people were sat at home and they thought, Jesus Christ, I don't like you at all. In fact, so there was
get
divorce.
That a lot. Sorry.
So it's kind of and we're so far so good where we've had to change tack over the years of moving where the I suppose the demand is. But when things are more difficult, litigation and areas like that, family never goes away. Private client, which is obviously when people die, it keeps going on whether people whether we're in a recession or not. So we made that move, and in the end we completely dropped off what we did before and moved more towards that. But I've seen with colleagues that I work with, I've had quite a number of colleagues I work with that have started to struggle with sort of addiction. And I've also seen as well, which I never would have heard of years ago, where I know that other business owners, that have been in this, that I've heard about through colleagues talking, have paid, to send members of staff.
Yeah, because they're good people.
Yeah, into rehab.
People.
So you imagine you've got your best salesman, your best sort of cash generator, who's got quite an infrastructure beneath them that will exist whether they're there or not, that you have to maintain. They start going off the rails, and all of a sudden to spend a decent sum on trying to get them mentally back on track again seems like a good business decision, because it is.
Well, as we often say, for people who are ready, I'll point to the camera now. For people who are ready, if you're not ready, you're on the fence, don't go. Try some free services, please. AA, NA, doctor, counselor, psychotherapist, etc. But for people who are ready, this is the best investment in your life. The money I saved in 1 year being sober paid for itself for rehab for most people, let alone the mental clarity, cognitive, liking myself for the first time ever. As long as I can remember, I was 27 when the first time I actually remembered liking myself and liking who I was. 27, and that I got sober at 25. Bit of a journey. I didn't go to rehab because we couldn't afford it. So rehab's a bit like an accelerator. So it's like you can do the same work for free, absolutely. Rehab, you really do a deep dive. It's like an ultimate boot camp for 28 days on your mind, so to speak. And we call it the A&E, but the continuing work. But so many points I could come back on, and we can be amazing people. What I heard in your story, man, it's just 2 concurrent recruitment kind of firms, the adaption for this isn't working, pull out here, the adaption with different bits, top 3 in the world systems. That was one of the reasons I grew my electrical business in the UK from 3 to 15 in 6 months. Do you know how? Calling people on time, replying to emails, detailed quotes, just doing the basics well, which is a lot easier to do in the construction game because the bar's not nearly as high as in some industries, but just doing the basics right. The devil's in the detail, my coach always tells me. And so you're clearly, and the adaption, I really like the adaption afterwards. You're like, well, in this type of time, this market picks up. In this, I need to lean into conveyancing, into this, into that. There's clearly tremendous skill in what you do. You're clearly a very skilled person. And as are a lot of the people in your industry, if people are spending thousands, tens of thousands to send them to rehab, they obviously see the value in these people. So I guess, a question for you, like chicken or egg, does the industry lead people down that path, or do people who perhaps are very good at overthinking or other things get naturally drawn into the industry?
It's an interesting one because I'm, and I've got to talk sort of vaguely here, but I'm aware of, individuals where they're very, very good at the job that I do, that I'm involved in, but they have the sort of tendencies as well to be drawn toward, I suppose, addiction and some of the behaviors are. It's like obsessive,
Obsession, yeah.
obsessive thinking,
Compulsive.
yeah. Like I have, I've had it where some of my best individuals that would work with me are brilliant at their job, but when they want something from me, I then
Relentless.
get to feel, what it's like for clients because they are relentless.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I like, in a way, I kind of think, Jesus Christ, will they leave me alone about it? But it's what makes them good. And I think at least they're on my side. That kind of, I suppose, behaviour of not giving up. Like a child that asks the dad for something and then the dad says no, and then they go to the mum. They do highlight that really in sales, you just need to go back to being like a child. And if someone says no, go to somebody else, or just don't give up. Just don't take sort of no for an answer. And one of my most successful people, they joined the company, and they'd been a joiner in the past. They hadn't done a job, although it was Jesus's profession, which we often joke, but it was not related to what we did. And he was very ambitious, but not all focused on money. It was more about doing the job really well. And I tend to find they are the best people. Yes, you've got to have wants and needs and what have you to earn, but the ones that are just solely focused on money don't necessarily do as well with what we do. It becomes almost a byproduct of doing the job well. So it's a little bit like if someone tells you that they're a brilliant recruitment consultant or they own a brilliant recruitment agency, that if they don't earn very much money, they can't be, because it's a byproduct of doing that job well. Or you're not charging enough, or you're a busy fool basically, or whatever else. So what I've seen with the people that are really successful is they do overthink, because they're always thinking and trying to put the dots together of things, and what would be the best thing. Some of their best ideas come late at night. I have
guilty.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally horrendous for it, and the irony is and with myself, with alcohol, I have ended up being in a position where I've allowed it to start to creep in more into my life. You come home from work, it's been a long day, you want to wind down, and it doesn't take, and it obviously is a progressive illness, but over the years, a couple of glasses of wine a night becomes a couple of bottles of wine a night, and it's not very long before the it's then starting to affect the quality of your work, your memory, your cognitive skills, and everything starts to be affected in work. And those brilliant ideas or bits of genius that would come along just stop coming along because you're kind of putting out the spark that kind of got you in that situation in the first place. So just like with addictions, how they and I know I think it's a great way you describe it. It's like a debt collector. They just start collecting more.
Starts by giving you something, that calm, that ease. Oh, it's been a hard day, relief.
Yeah.
Slow the head, stop the overthinking. But yeah, exactly that. After a while, it stops here. The debt collector's like, right now, it's my turn.
Yeah. And this is what's happened. And I mean, I'm quite lucky in the sense that the team of people I work with, we've not ever been in a position where someone's, needed, professional help, but you see some of the behaviors. And what's been good is because I have had, issues, myself, I'm able to identify it quite early on. And that's been a really good thing for me, where I've been able to say to people, look, I know what I'm talking about here. These are some of the behaviors, and just watch out. And I think it's meant that people have listened to me very early on. They're not, because I've noticed you're doing maybe what I was doing 20 years ago. And that's the very earliest part. And it has kind of made people go, oh, right. Yeah, okay, I'll give that a bit of thought, actually. Or maybe I will calm down a bit, or even seek some help, because a lot of it, I think, is sparked off by anxiety.
Yeah. A fine line, like with athletes spring to mind. Very similar, supreme discipline, supreme commitment, and there's a fine line between excitement and anxiety. And sometimes some people's anxiety an athlete would call excitement, and before a big race or something. So yeah, I get that kind of nervous energy, that shock, that which is part, in some ways, with overthinking. Overthinking itself can generate anxiety because you're overthinking a million things, which can make you anxious. It's certainly for me.
I remember when I was in my early 20s, or sort of mid 20s, is when I first set out in business on my own. I'd worked in recruitment for 5 years, and then I went and did something on my own. And in the earliest days, I used to get so excited about possibilities. I was like, back then I was, you think you could take on the world and stuff. And
Which sounds like you did.
Yeah. Well, I get so excited that I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. So I would end up becoming exhausted because my brain would not shut off, but with excitement. So I'd almost like enjoy being awake at night, running situations through my head. What am I going to say? What's going to happen here? What if this? Then what would we do? And then, oh God, and it would go on. But at the same time, if things were going bad, or we started to have some bad news, or deals were falling off, and things like that, I wouldn't be able to sleep either. So I found that the actual middle section, where I had what you could describe as peace, was very seldom. And what I've been able to do now is that peace part, with being completely sober and not drinking at all, has grown to fill quite a big space. And then it's just small bits either end, which are, I've not been able to sleep because I'm wound up about something or whatever. It could be personal, could be work. And then on the other hand, if something's got to be really wow, and I don't know whether that's just age and experience, that I almost think now, we'll see. I'm not a pessimist at all, but I don't let myself get overly excited about something until it fully happens. Whereas before I'd just way jump the gun and I'd be just way overexcitable. And what it's done is it's enabled me to just have that peace. And that's what I'm seeking in life.
Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And
moving over here to live in Bali, I didn't move to Bali for any kind of business. But, all I was going to do was come and live here because I wanted to have a different lifestyle. And I'd wanted to move abroad for years. And funny enough, the story of me being here is really good. Is I basically kept having this thing flash up on Instagram, and it was about this like business people's retreat in the mountains, in Munduk Mountains. And I saw it and I thought, wow.
That's
And then I just shelved it, and it just kept coming up, like
the algorithms
do. Anyway, it kept coming up, and I just thought, something's drawing me to this. So then
Facebook algorithm.
Yeah. So then I started to think to myself, am I meant to go there and meet, like Jeff Bezos or something like that, right? And then they would meet me, and they would get on with me, and they would say, listen, we should be in business together, or we should, or you should even come and work with me. I didn't know, because I was in my sort of late 40s. I've only just turned 50, but I thought maybe this is a new turning point. I've done the same job. Not many people last working in recruitment for more than a few years.
Actually, I know that, yeah. And from the people I know who have worked in it.
So the fact I'm still in the recruitment industry is just, it's crazy. So I thought, right. So in the end, I just booked flights. And the other thing as well for me, where it was a massive challenge, is I realised I'd never been abroad, right, without being kind of looked after. So either my parents were taking me, or I would have a wife that would be going, I've got the passports. They'd even pack the cases. So whenever they say to you, did you pack your own case, sir? It's never actually been me. I don't know what the hell's in there.
If you're airlines, if you're listening, forget that.
Yeah. So, but I know my wife's not going to plan. You know what I mean?
Your family, that's a bit
jokes
different.
on her a little bit. If we all get anyway. So what happened is I went to this thing, got there, and I got to the Emirates desk, and I'm there with the person at the Emirates desk, and I'm going, right, I've got to get this straight. So I give you these suitcases. Now, when we get to Dubai, do I have to queue up again to get the cases off for them to go back on it? And they're going, no, we just move them to the next airplane. And I'm going, well, how do you know? Mine has to go on another airplane and other people's don't. And they're just looking at me like...
They got systems like you, Chris. That's how.
They're looking at me like, have you been born in or lived in a cave for the last few, for your life or what have you? But I just didn't know. And I had to be sure that this trip isn't going to get ruined by, the whole airline industry not really knowing what they're doing. So they explained it to me. Anyway, I got over to Bali.
With your suitcase?
Yeah, with my suitcase. And even when we turned up at this place, a guy turns up on a moped and says, the taxi pulls up. I've got these big cases. And then a moped pulls up and they said, right, we're just going to take you up to the place now. And I thought, oh my God, I've just been conned. I've been completely done over here. This is a scam. I'm going to end up, sort of put in a cage or something and the luggage all stolen. Anyway, so I get to this place and it is genuine and everything's great, but I'm really freaked out. The only kind of holidays or things I've ever done have been like there's a buffet. It's a 5-star, 4-star, whatever hotel. It's all very concrete. It's all, it's all laid on for you. This is like in the jungle, genuinely in the jungle, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God. And then I started to get like waves of homesickness. What have I done? This is crazy. I'm here for a month, right?
Wow.
Anyway, yeah. So I was, within a day or two though, I started to think, I feel really like, I could feel the spiritual sort of difference of being in Bali and the people and the energy, and I was with nature. And I just started to think, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So, I mean, to give you sort of, this is an example of my kind of one-track mind, is I got there, I did that, and then I looked up someone that we both know locally that I'd gone to school with, and I hadn't even realised they lived in Bali when I first had gone on to that trip. So I met with them, discussions came further, and I thought, right, if it's good for him, he seems to like it. And everyone I spoke to, I said the same thing. So go on then, what are the downsides of living here? And no one could give me hardly anything. And I met quite a few different people, all varying, like digital nomad type people. And I saw it as my kind of mission to ask around. And there was no real downsides. A couple of things just, FYIs almost, but nothing And I'm thinking, it's so cost effective to live here. It's outdoor lifestyle, better weather, everything. So anyway, by the time I'd gotten home, I pretty much said, right, we're moving to Bali, right? And what I did to stop anybody sort of,
Talking you out of it.
pissing on my bonfire was I went and just booked all the flights, right? And I'd never been in business class on an aeroplane until I was about 47, where I'd gone on like a kind of a 50th birthday.
At 47.
Yeah,
Oh, not yours.
It wasn't mine. It
I
was someone
gonna
else's.
say.
And we'd gone in business class, right? And I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't believe how good it was compared to normal flying. And I just thought, God, this is bad that I've experienced this. So what I did was to try and sweeten the pill a bit. Was I managed, I mean, fair enough, I did hunt around and there were some big long layovers and stuff, but I got the whole family here in business class. And it only cost a bit more than what normal flying would have been.
Wow.
So but we had to stay in China.
A travel agent.
We had to stay in China for 11 and a half hours, which was pretty grim. But they still got to go, you know what I mean, on business class. So but what I did is by booking it all without really sort of waiting for everyone to kind of, because if you keep saying to people, do you think we're doing the right thing?
Yeah.
There's always someone that's going to talk you out of it.
Naysayers will creep in.
Yeah.
Oh man, you should try starting a rehab in Bali and hear the naysayers. And then being shut down by a volcano and hear the naysayers. And then COVID and hear the naysayers get loud if you don't learn to shut them out. Or just, you have to be a bit different to do some of the things we've done. And I don't mean that in a negative way, different, because top three rated recruitment firm, starting a firm in Australia or looking to do that, move to Bali. You're not average. You are not, or everyone's special in their own way. Everyone's got skills, talents, etc. But what we've done is not normal, is it?
What I'm struggling with a little bit is what we're doing at the moment with Australia is I'm not making any money. So I'm going through this long-winded period of putting the foundations in. Now, the temptation is jump away from that very boring but necessary job, or get other people to do it. But the problem is they never do it correctly.
Because it's not their baby.
It's exactly. And so what I've done is I've had to say to myself, just grin and bear it and get on with it. And what I'm actually doing on a day-to-day basis at the moment is crazy. You've got the guys in England, are talking to law firms that are saying, we need somebody to head up, for example, a brand new department in London. They've got to have had this much experience. They've got to bill. I mean, one of the things that we're big into is solicitors are like successful salespeople, the real high-end ones, where they, for example, will earn about 1/3 of what they generate for a firm.
Okay.
So where we really come into our own is we might have someone that says, I want a basic salary of £250,000 a year, right?
Got any jobs going?
But they will have a client following that's worth about 750. Okay. So what this is what we kind of do as a business, is we go to a company and say, I know of somebody that will basically make you £500,000 a year. I mean, it won't be quite that much with all tax and NI and things like that on there, but and it's very much if all those clients come with them, which a lot of the time they will, right?
Because they trust the person, trust the relationship, they have experience, it's worked.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it will work out of, we could bring you £500,000, which you will get every single year that you manage to keep that person with you, and we'll charge a percentage, a one-off fee to bring you both together. And we will obviously try and, make sure shepherd the whole process through and what have you. And so there was an example I gave where back in the automotive days, I placed a guy to be the head of business at the biggest BMW dealership in London. And the fee for it, especially for automotive recruitment, was pretty good. And in the end, when the guy joined the company, this dealership, the reason they got him was, although it was a huge dealership, it made about £250,000 a year, clear profit. But what they realised was this dealership should be making more like 1.5 million or something
wow.
like that. Now, when he joined the company, it straight away, within the first year, got up to about 500,000, and then it just kept on growing and it like a snowballing effect. And within about 3 years, it was up and beyond that 1.5 like ideal scenario. And then the owner of the company, who'd inherited it from his father, was able to sell the business to this individual, but via a management buyout. Right.
Okay.
So I always say, when people go, for example, oh, your fees are, or the cost of recruitment is high, is when you look at what they paid us as a recruitment fee to find that person, and then I say, and the owner of that business is probably sat on a yacht in the Mediterranean now, got sold out for millions, well, however, God knows how much it was, but it's probably the best,
investment he made.
£1,000 that he's ever made in his life. And I think, and harking back to recovery, the worst thing is some people will go to recovery, and I've seen this, where they often have, it's a lot of money. Sometimes they've paid for it. Sometimes, family have paid for it, but then they don't commit to it. And then it becomes, that's when it's expensive. But as long as people can really, stick with it, and
commit.
To
everything to the best of your ability, not perfection.
No,
it's the best you can do.
And I think as well that with rehabs, the ones like the one you run, Bali Beginnings, where you engage in something such as AA, NA, any of these fellowships, you, within the period of time that you're in the facility, you build a like what can become a lifelong process. Whereas a great deal of other rehabs, they almost have you in to tell you, almost give you a shake. What have you been doing? This is bad for you. But once you are out, the alcoholic thinking, which has not gone away, is going to creep back in again. And it's proven that the very few people, and they're extremely rare, have the willpower to beat that obsession.
Well, I have tremendous willpower, this without question. To start a rehab again after best friend died, volcano erupted, cost me my house, £50,000 of debt, cost me 100 grand, COVID. You mentioned, not knowing if it paid. I started in 2015 and got my first penny. I started taking a salary in 2024, 9 years before I got a penny. And that's just a salary, not even a quite modest salary as well. So willpower, I have without question, but my that tremendous willpower, that will to drive to succeed, carry on, block out the naysayers, believe in myself or what I do, believe what we're about, can't apply any of that to alcohol. Can't apply a single drop of that to alcohol. In some ways, actually, I believe it held me back. Because I had such a belief I can win, it stopped me reaching out for help for so long, because I believed I could beat it. So I actually think the willpower held me back, if anything.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting way of looking at it. It's because I've shown as well. Like other people would say about me, I know I don't give up too easy. It was funny. I was
Look at what you've achieved.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to one of the guys sort of in here, and I was telling you the story how when I came out here, I'd ridden a moped, then a Yamaha NMAX, which everyone seems to have, and I then went down to the Harley Davidson dealership, right? And I walked in and I sat on this Harley Davidson, and the guy comes over, like the salesman, and I said, "Yeah, I'll have it," right? And he looks outside the window at my NMAX that I've rented, that I've turned up on, and he goes, "Have you ever ridden
a motorbike,
like a motorbike with gears
in the air?"
And I looked at him and I went, I learned how to fly a plane. I says, I'm pretty sure I can learn how to ride a motorbike, right? So he looks at me and he goes, well, fair enough. Anyway, so I leave a small deposit, right, to secure the bike. And I went, "I see you." So I go to walk out, tripped up the step, right? Went flying into the glass doors, right? And I just thought to myself, he must have just been stood there thinking, this guy's
Oh
going to be
my
dead. He's going to be
God.
dead within a week,
Oh
right?
my God.
And it
But
was
he
so,
still sold you the bike, right?
oh yeah, exactly. He commissioned or would have been. I mean, the other thing as well is I don't think they sell very many bikes. I've been in there a few
No.
times for
And,
servicing and
it's different when their Indonesia wages are lower. People are a lot closer to the breadline. So the ethics of literally feeding your family, or the difference between, going on a nice holiday, perhaps in the UK, it's a bit of a different ethical dilemma
yeah.
out here.
And the thing is that is what I mean, again, like your examples of you can be very driven, but then when it comes to alcohol, you have great willpower as such, right? But then when it comes to alcohol, you have
Apply it.
a blind spot. So going back to what I mentioned there is when I learned to fly, I was basically working full time in the recruitment job. I'd also bought a house to do up, so I'm not like like a tradesman myself. But I thought, right, I'm going to buy this absolute wreck of a house, and I'm going to renovate it all on my own, right? And then when I sell it, I'll be able to buy a family house, because that recession in 2008, I ended up bankrupt, divorced, completely wiped out. Where everything happened all at once. My first marriage broke down. She took everything that I'd worked for all through my 20s and early 30s. So she got the lot, and I ended up being made bankrupt. So I was completely, bottomed out, 100%. And it wasn't that long after that where, as a part of this whole, like, I'm going to be like a phoenix that rises from the ashes, right? Yeah. So I'm going to do this house up. And then I decided in the middle of doing that I'm also going to learn to fly a plane. And the reality of it was, I went for this one like tester kind of lesson where we're going to take you up in a Cessna. I was absolutely terrified, right? I'm not even a confident flyer. Like, when I get on an aeroplane, say to fly here, and when you take off and it makes that zzz, I'm sat
Oh
there,
my God.
right? I'm sat there thinking, is that normal, right? And I'm looking
That's
at the
me.
air.
That's the overthinking, the
Exactly.
anxiety.
So I've got a pilot's license, and I sit there staring at these stewardesses, thinking they've probably been on this
See if
plane
they're
before.
calm.
Yeah, if they're calm.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they look calm, so I'm going to try and switch my head off for a bit. That's literally what I do. Everyone else is calm.
Exactly.
Okay, we're not all going to die.
I do
Unless
sometimes.
Chris is flying, maybe.
Yeah, I do sometimes think though that like, imagine a scenario where they do come wandering out and go, is there a pilot on board? And I imagine
I say, is there a parachute on board? So, but you wouldn't get me out the door.
I'd jump up and put my hand up, and then like there'd be someone else or another two or three. Because I have noticed this is another funny thing, in the world of the recovery world, the number of pilots, you can't throw a stick without hitting someone.
Really?
That's been a pilot.
We don't condone throwing sticks, people, I'd just like to say.
But it's a very common thing. But I learned to do it. But what quickly happened is I was really into it for a while. But then it's like driving a car in the sky very expensively and driving very slowly. Because obviously when you're up in the air, there's nothing really around you. It just becomes boring. So I kind of like, I've been there,
We
done
don't
that.
have that on the bikes in Bali, do we?
No,
Fuck
exactly. Just on an NMAX on a country road here is far
or
more
a
thrilling.
Harley.
Yeah, or
going
a Harley.
through the window.
Yeah. So
Well, it's interesting. There is something that I've almost done on a plane that is a great tip for anyone in recovery or struggling with alcohol. And I can tell you the day I almost did this, and it was the date, the time, the last time I seriously thought about having a drink. 6 years sober. It was the 11th of July, 2018, and I remember I'm terrified of flying. My anxiety, I didn't know till I gave up drinking. And I have a kind of anxiety disorder I've learned that I probably get from my mum. Hers is a lot worse, or some's passed on, not judging her. So terrified of flying. I'd rather fight Mike Tyson in a Shark Tank than fly. And I know the date because it was the 1 year anniversary of my best friend's death, and I felt this tremendous pain and fear. And I just thought, I know what will get rid of this pain and fear: a drink. And the thing you can do on planes, so AA, the founder of AA was called Bill Wilson. So you can ask like a little code, is in without breaking anonymity. Are you a friend of Bill Wilson's? Means, are you a member of AA? Just so we don't break people's anonymity. Not like some secret society crap. And you can apparently ask, if you're on a plane and feel like drinking or struggling, are there any friends of Bill Wilson on the plane? Um, and I almost did that. I instead did some meditation, put some stuff on, listened to a podcast, and I have enough in the bank. I've worked enough on my sobrietal fitness, my mental fitness, and grief to know it was a momentary thing and it would pass. So. But a little tip for anyone out there: are there any friends of Bill Wilson around?
How would they know, though, that they were friends of Bill
There
Wilson?
might not be, so they announce it on the tannoy.
Oh, I get
And
you,
if
right.
anyone's in AA on the plane, or perhaps someone knows that code will come and talk to you, might
Oh,
not
that's
be
clever,
someone
yeah.
there. But I mean, there's a surprising number of people
there'd
the
be
more you
loads.
go out. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. If they did that on a plane, there'd be
Now,
a
when the
handful.
pilot comes out, you might worry.
Yes.
In fact, I wouldn't, or perhaps you wouldn't,
No.
but being an alcoholic and knowing where I am now, I wouldn't. Because as we know, people with alcohol problems, as we've been discussing, can be amazingly successful, amazingly good at what they do. It's like a duality,
Yeah.
Tremendous
Yeah.
duality.
There's countless, very, like, the best in their fields that are openly now, and more are coming out where they
Cool.
they're in recovery. And I think it almost seems to be like a symptom of where people are high achievers.
I feel so.
I mean, I've been diagnosed, and I think wrongly, well, definitely wrongly now. I saw a couple of specialists over time, and it was more to do with really overthinking, anxiety, to do with work and everything else. And I was diagnosed with, you got bipolar, you got ADHD. I was put on medication for those, and now I don't take any medication whatsoever.
Interesting. We've had this come up this week from a client's family member asking them to be diagnosed for bipolar and other things. This is exactly why we don't. NIC NICE guidelines in the UK recommend you don't diagnose someone for at least 28 days sober. I would argue 60 or 90, because you're treating the alcohol problem rather than the person. If you test most people with an alcohol problem for depression or anxiety, they'll almost certainly do one, if not both, because it's a symptom of the behavior. So we need to be very careful with treating the person and not the problem, because you remove that. And I say 60 or 90 because if you're like me, you're an alcoholic. Well, 28 days doesn't clear up all the wreckage I did for 10 years of drinking and where my life was. 60 days, 90 days, you start to build. People see your progress. Sometimes they don't, but you're going in the right way. Then assess someone, ideally longer for some of those things, or at least reassess them, because you're literally a prime example, by the sounds of it, of this thing. Remove the alcohol problem and you don't feel those assessments were right. So you're the prime example of why we do this, the prime example.
Yeah, and even it was funny because I saw a couple of specialists. One was certain, and then the other, who was like a really, experienced, a psychiatrist. He was of the belief that no, you're not at all. And there was also this belief that if you're feeling that you're going in waves where you suddenly go down every 6 weeks or so, a lot of it can be from many years of drinking, or probably drinking more than the recommended amount. It stops your body's ability to keep
chemicals.
replenishing, and also as well is
Dopamines,
yeah,
fat,
and
all
you
sorts.
you're overthinking. You think you wear
Which is
yourself
a
out.
thing you're also training your brain. You
Mm,
know, the more you practice meditation, for instance, or breath work, the less you overthink. It's a muscle you're training, whereas the more you entertain overthinking and thoughts, so I'll have a drink to get rid of this, you're actually training that part of your brain. You're training the
mm,
anxiety neural pathways and strengthening them. So yeah,
mm,
by doing some of the opposite behaviors or some of the things we teach or others teach, you're weakening those muscles and strengthening the other muscles,
mm.
which sounds like you've done.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's where I see a huge difference I've seen as well is sleep quality.
Mm,
I've really just on
not
a
sedated.
yeah, like I've got one of these Aura rings. I wear it. It's like my wedding ring,
We're not
and
sponsored by Aura, but if you want
no,
to sponsor us,
if you want to send
reach
me a
out.
new one, the most up to
Not
date
him,
one,
me.
yeah, maybe you as well.
Although he's the one paying for it at the minute, so
Yeah,
maybe a bit
I've,
of a
I mean, you should do, but they're amazing. I damaged one I had. Somehow it changed its shape and it wouldn't sit on its little charger, and they just sent me a brand new one. I'd had it 2 years, and they sent me a new one,
Oh,
and
nice.
I was like, you don't get customer service like that every day. So
But you are probably paying a monthly subscription.
yes,
I mean, that helps
Ah,
because they want to keep you on the subscription,
ah,
but
yeah,
not playing devil's advocate
yeah.
there. I get it. Well, if you're finding value from it, because it is interesting, the sedation you get from prescription
Oh,
medication or
well, the
alcohol.
stats it gives you. The beauty is because I've
Mm,
had it for years. I can look back on. It's going back till about 2022.
mm,
So I've got stats of what my sleep health was like for years. And for example, I think at one point in certain years, the average, if it was worked out, even where you might not sleep very well through stress and all the rest of it, and then you have what we call a mega sleep, where I'd sometimes have like, like not hardly sleep and then have like 14 hours in
wow.
one go. I remember joking with someone saying, "Oh, just no use to anyone unless I get my minimum 14 hours a night." You know what I mean? But no, I'd have one like 14-hour, maybe on a weekend or something to try and like recover. But overall, though, my average sleep was around sort of 3.5 odd hours a night, which is terrible.
Yeah, massively.
Whereas nowadays, my average is about six actual, you're fast asleep because people think I've had 8 hours, but you haven't. You went to bed and you woke up 8 hours later, you got up 8 hours later, you'll have took time to fall asleep, you wake up
Mm,
in the night, you
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So, but I average like nearer 7 hours now, which is, it basically scores me as it being very healthy. So,
And interestingly, occasionally some people I've heard can get anxiety if they don't sleep right or stuff.
mm,
But we've actually had discussions about introducing them into the center and giving everyone one so we can track them and almost they can see their progression. Because, like you say, there's something very tangible about seeing actual graphs of what I was like
yeah,
when I
yeah.
came in to what I was like now, like a picture of when you first come in and when you leave. The difference can be like, whoa, you don't always see little gradual improvements or changes when you're here, but something like that, you can see a stark difference in front of you in black and white. We also have a color printer, so in color, if we print the
Mm,
graph in color, but yeah,
mm,
it's fascinating. So that is one little improvement we're looking at. And we're getting the signal Dave's dancing.
mm,
So that means it's time to wrap it up.
cool.
But I guess I would ask you then, what has been the best thing you've done for your well-being?
That's a good question. I think it has been able to start to focus. It's this working towards having peace, and by
Okay.
that, and I've done it using tools like meditation, breathing, not trying to be hard on myself, and
Mm,
like this harps back a little bit as well. As soon as you start to love yourself, you become far more bulletproof to everything else that goes on around you. And therefore, you don't worry about it. You don't overthink things so much. It's a lot easier to not be bothered by maybe what other people think or how you're perceived if you yourself know I'm living my life well, I'm treating others around me well, and
Integrity.
I'm not, I'm sort of showing up in life in a good way. I haven't done anything to
Another
with
man.
bad intentions. Yeah. And like I meant to sort of mention about that is when you spoke about learning to like yourself or love yourself, what have you. I've started to do that, and although you'd be annoyed by people saying things to you, you would then deep down think, well, I don't, if you don't like yourself, you can listen to what they say and maybe almost agree with them behind the scenes.
Which maybe is accurate, particularly if we're struggling with alcohol problems. There's some truth in the not nice things that people are saying. We're sick, people trying to get well, not bad people trying to get good, but that is the product of struggling with alcohol. We do behaviors we don't want to sometimes.
Yeah,
in a
absolutely.
million different ways for a million different people. So I think that is a good time to leave it there, because I think me and you could sit here all day and talk, and definitely the group here would get pissed off with us.
Yeah.
So on that note, I will leave it there. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Chris.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Howard.
Pleasure.
Cheers.